Hey guys, it's Sherry Vegas and welcome back to my channel. In this Jesmonite / acrylic resin tutorial, I'm going to be answering a really good question about the two different techniques between double pouring and breaking your Jesmonite pieces. On my Jesmonite for Beginners video, I got asked a really good question, and if you haven't watched that video, I'll put the link up somewhere here. Definitely recommend watching it if you haven't seen it. But one of the techniques that I showed for creating a Jesmonite tray was where I did the snap technique or the break technique, where you make a full Jesmonite piece, you break it in half, and then you pour the other side, and that way you get like a really cool effect of, you know, whether you wanted to do like one side terrazzo, one side plain, or two different types of terrazzo pours. But someone asked me, why wouldn't you just do a double pour at the same time? So pour, you know, the one color on that side and a different color on that side. And I thought that was a really good question, because there are different reasons behind why you would do a piece where you purposely made a full piece and then you broke it and then reassembled it, and why you would do a double pour. So first up, the reason why you kind of want to do a breaking piece is if you're going to be doing the second part as a resin, because you can't pour resin like epoxy resin and Jesmonite at the same time. They're not going to set well together. So you would need to make a Jesmonite piece first, break that, and then pour your resin side if you're going to be mixing the two different mediums together. And you can't do it the other way where you do half a resin piece and then pour Jesmonite, because the resin needs to stick to Jesmonite, but Jesmonite can't stick to resin, because when resin sets, it's really smooth, there's nothing to grip, but when Jesmonite sets, it still has texture. So that's why you can do a Jesmonite piece, break it, and then pour the second part as resin, because the resin will grip to that really well, like in this tray that I've just made. So one part was terrazzo, and I poured that, let that set, and then I broke it. I replaced it back into the original mold, the part that I wanted, and then I just mixed up some epoxy casting resin and poured down the other side, and then I just waited for that to fully set before I demolded it. You can do a whole bunch of different effects doing this technique, and saying that you don't have to do this with resin. If you wanted to do a piece that, say, was a 3D piece, like a big plant pot, and you wanted bits going around, you would have to do that breaking technique where you made the first pot first, broke it, and then added those bits and then poured the other color, because obviously if it's going down the sides, if it's vertical, if you try to pour color in certain patches, it's just going to pour to the bottom. So that's another reason why you would do the breaking technique. But if you obviously just wanted to make one piece and you don't want to make one piece, break it, and then make a second piece, but you do want to have the element of the two different colors or two different effects, then you can do a double pour or a triple pour, and mix up all of those different colors and pour them into the mold at the same time, as long as it's all Jesmonite. So with this, obviously, you're not going to be using resin and mixing those two mediums together. So you can create some really cool trays like this. So this is a swirl effect, and I poured both parts at the same time. When you do this, you can block off certain areas and create some really cool patterns, so you don't get as much like sort of control that you get when you pour it this way compared to when you break it, because obviously when you're breaking the piece, however it breaks is how it breaks. But with this, if you do have a certain, like, I want this part to be fully this color, you've got a bit more control that way. So all I did with this one was I mixed up a big batch of my Jesmonite, I split it in half, I colored one side dark gray and added black and white swirls, and I left one side white and added my black swirls through that, and then I just poured it at the same time. You get a really beautiful blending of colors, and it can create some really cool pieces and effects. And this is like a great option to do if you don't want to break it, or if you do want to make sure that you're only getting your colors in one certain part. So both of these have their advantages and their like disadvantages with the two different techniques. But I thought it would be really important to kind of explain it a little bit more in depth why you pick one over the other. So I hope that's answered the question, and you still would finish and seal them all the same way. Something that I do want to add to is, if you are going to be doing the terrazzo break and then you add it back in. Before you add it back in, you do need to sand back your terrazzo piece, because obviously when the resin connects to it, you're not going to be able to sand that back. So when you do break it, you do need to fully sand it, finish it, and then place it back into the mold. You can't just break it, put it back straight in, because we need to be able to sand it so we can see our terrazzo pieces. Not the same if you were doing a swirl and breaking it and then adding your resin in. And you can also do one side just completely clear resin if you wanted to. You can do it however you want. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you haven't checked out my Jesmonite for beginners, please do so. It's really great. Like, I've done a really in-depth guide for it, so I definitely recommend checking it out if you are really getting into acrylic resins. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that's answered your question. If you have any more questions about Jesmonite, different techniques, or just anything to do with acrylic resin, please leave them in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer them. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing, as I post new videos every single week, all to do with like Jesmonite, acrylic resins, epoxy resins, alcohol inks, candle making. Those are kind of my favorite topics to cover. And if you ever have anything that you want me to do a tutorial on, always just leave it in the comments below. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video.